Hi, I'm Ethan Stein. I am the North Philadelphia organizer for Power Interfaith. I've been organizing for Power for 2 years. And what drew me to Power is when I looked at the Power's website and it said, well, what do you focus on? Climate change, criminal justice, education. And I'm looking down this list of things and I'm like, well, these are all the things that I want. And then you couple that with the fact of organizing is really like building power with people. It's like it's also the way to get there. So for me, it was like a perfect combination. I would say that an organizer is essentially someone that helps people build the power for themselves and in their community. And I say specifically for us, organizers at Power, it's our job to develop the leaders and especially in the faith community to essentially develop and empower their skills and the necessary requirements so that they have a voice tangibly in effect in the community. And I'm talking specifically in the public arena when we're talking about the decisions that are made that affect people in the community. We want those people that already are spiritual leaders or leaders in the congregation to really take on the role of like having an effect of the way things happen around that congregation and for people in their neighborhood. And it takes a lot of different forms, what it means to like organize people. Sometimes that's connecting, sometimes it's pushing a person to go further in their own leadership. It can mean a lot of different things, but really it's just the investment and development of people. I'd say that the challenges that I face are both some of the difficulties in organizing in Philadelphia, and that's one part, and then there's also the part of difficulties of how it challenges myself, right? The personal challenges. So first, the difficulties. I organize in North Philly, and like specifically, I'm in neighborhoods like Hunting Park and Logan. You're talking about poor areas, predominantly ethnic, black and brown, where the political system hasn't worked for them, where people have been disenfranchised and neglected. And so there's not a lot of hope. Where I grew up in South Jersey, people really believe in the political system because it works for them. It doesn't work as much for the people that I organize with. And in that, you've got to bring a lot of hope because people naturally, I think, are discouraged. And that creates its own set of problems. Not to mention the fact that if a person's struggling to get food on their table or rent, be able to pay their bills for the house, they may not have the time in some sense to really be all up to date on what's happening in the political arena, or even just having the time to go sit with their neighbor. Like, these are the elements that I think make it difficult to organize. And so for myself, just starting in, it's like, going to community meetings, handing out flyers, all of that kind of thing. That did not work for me. I've had events and aspects that have failed to really generate any kind of response from people doing that. And I say that part of the challenge is how do you reach people? How do you connect with them? So far, I'm doing much better because of the relationships that I've been building, that have been taking a long time to build. It's like really moving at the speed at which I've built trust with people. But I think that aspect of like really deep ingrained relationship is something that it's not always the easiest to get, but it's what's necessary to build in at least North Philadelphia where I organize. On the other front, personally, it requires, some of the challenges here in leadership is really the risk that it entails, the risk that I personally will fail, that I'm asking people to be in relationship with me. I'm asking them to take a leap and a journey to fight for what they need in their community and to have their voice heard. But if things don't work and they fail, that's on me for inviting them into it in some sense, right? Or you feel some type of responsibility because you're the one trying to engage people around this leadership. And then there's also the personal risk to my own ego, where, there's likability, sometimes wanting to be liked by people, wanting to not just engage with them and not build relationships, but on a real personal level, wanting that connection to be there, and sometimes having the risk elements of not being liked to get a person what they need for themselves in their own self-interest and the interest of the community. And that can be tough. For myself, that's always a journey, is like, do I personally want to take the risk? I want to be an organizer in this community because I want to see these things change, but it's sometimes hard to say, I'm going to be the guy that's going to make these things happen, and I'm going to be the guy that's going to go there come what happens, right? And that's sometimes a challenge for me, to really step in and not just, when I signed on to Power, it's about developing leaders, right? You're an organizer, you develop leaders. But the challenge for me is that means I have to be a leader myself. And stepping into that role is a challenge. As I'm sure many people know, when they take a role in leadership, the buck stops with you in a lot of respects. And you have to be more than just someone that shows up. You have to bring hope. You have to bring answers. Even if you don't know the answer, you have to bring the hope that you can get it. And it's really about deeply being vulnerable sometimes with people and all of the aspects that go into it. All of these challenges and really in engaging people is like, it hasn't always come easy for me. And so I'd say like, and that's, I'm sure for many leaders and many people in Philadelphia, it's a challenge in organizing. I mean, I'd say for myself, I think it's just the severity and gravity of what I want. You know, I'm someone that is like, I'm African and Jewish descent. So I would say historically, like I grew up listening to or watching like La Amistad and Roots and like Holocaust films and like feeling like historically like a persecuted person from a persecuted peoples in some sense, like someone that's always had the system of the world against them in some way, right? And for me, I've always felt like, you know, like in the pit of my heart, like or stomach, you know, like this a problem with this injustice. I wanted to be able to reach out and make things better for people. And it bothers me greatly to see the suffering of people, and it warms my soul to see people thrive.